steps taken to sort of increase, I guess, containment and you know, moving submarines into the Gulf permanently, they say, and you know, working with Gulf countries. And I'm wondering, is there any connection, or what's the impact there when you?
It's a hot potato, yeah, very hot potato. I mean, it's being debated a lot. You know, Hillary Clinton made some statements even before she was Secretary of State. She's made them later also about a sort of a deterrence concept for the Middle East. It was early on sort of seen as if she was talking about extending the nuclear umbrella over Middle Eastern countries. But I've also heard people from the State Department telling me that that's not what she intended. That it was a broader, if you will, deterrence vision. But it is an issue. If Iran does acquire nuclear weapons, would it be necessary to do that? Well, it seems like Iran already is in the warplane. You know, it doesn't require Iran creating nuclear weapons because of a doctrine against chemical and biological weapons. They're already in the warplane.
One thing I was wondering,
just to continue though on that, I mean, can it be a kind of preparation? I mean, if you're, you know, you're moving certain not nuclear weapons, but missiles and submarines in the area. Yeah. Is it a signal or a step?
It certainly would be a signal, but I don't think it's one that's being considered at all. I don't think anybody realistically is considering moving nuclear weapons into the Middle Eastern region, or even deploying nuclear weapons into the Persian Gulf. I mean, our surface fleet does not have a nuclear capability today. The attack submarines don't carry them. I mean, they could, of course, but we don't have nuclear weapons there. I think it would. I just cannot imagine a scenario, short of something going really wacko with the Iranians, where we would even consider deploying nuclear weapons into the region.
I remember when Hillary Clinton made that comment about extending the, you know, about you know, nuclear umbrella or a security guarantee, but didn't. I mean, I think I remember looking into it at the time, and the Bush administration had already said that. Was that not the case?
I don't think. I mean, I'm not familiar with it, but you know, that could be. I don't know.
I think you know, part of the objection at the time was that it appeared when we start talking about a nuclear deterrent against Iran, that was a tacit acquiescence that, oh well, we've given up, they're going to become a nuclear power anyway. And so it was, I think that part of the issue there was the signal it was sending that, oh, we've given up on trying to prevent them from going nuclear, and now we're going to have to learn to live with it. And they said, no, that's not the message that we want to get out.
Thanks.
Well, I just want to, because I think there's a distinction here. There's a distinction between whether some of our allies and friends in the Middle East are under the nuclear umbrella, or whether Iran is in our nuclear warplane because we think we should be able to deter them with nuclear weapons. There's something about a formal treaty or arrangement with an allied country in the region that we would come to their aid with nuclear weapons, like in Europe or in Japan or South Korea. And then I think which is I think what she was beginning to talk about. And then what the Bush administration did, which I think was extending our nuclear doctrine or strategy to cover Iran as well. But just because of Iran as a nuclear or weapons of mass destruction country, that's the core of that strategy. So do you understand the difference?
Not entirely.
The planning, the nuclear planning against Iran, because it's a weapons of mass destruction, is a strategic posture of the United States. If we held a nuclear umbrella over a country in the region, that would be an extended deterrence scenario for that ally.
Right.
Which is different.
It's, for example, we have...
There are treaty allies. There's NATO and there's Japan and South Korea, which we are treaty bound to defend them. Yeah. So we give them the nuclear umbrella. Right. The Gulf doesn't have that. Right. So we say we will use our nuclear deterrent against Iran, but we're not saying we are protecting UAE, Saudi, Kuwait, whatever.
Like, we target China because we consider them a potential strategic enemy. but we have guarantees to protect Japan regardless of who. If Iran attacks Japan, we're supposed to protect Japan. If North Korea attacks Japan, we're supposed to, regardless of where that threat comes from. So those are, the guarantee for Japan is different from the targeting of China. Those, I mean, in practice, they amount to much the same thing.
That's what I was wondering.
But they are separate. So you have
Thanks. I just wanted to take it back to the NPR debate for a second. I'm wondering if you can talk about how the debate over a new nuclear warhead is playing right now, whether you call it RRW or stockpile management or whatever it is, the name that they came up with this today. Can you talk about is that one of the issues that's still left to be negotiated, and who's on what side?
That's a complex topic, certainly, and it's not clear how that's going to work out. There are a couple of things that are going on here. One is the NPR, we would hope, would have enough specificity that would allow a more intelligent debate about what our nuclear requirements are. The one we talk about most often is maintaining the reliability and safety of our warheads, which we say, if you go to the Hill or whenever and say, oh, we need to keep our warheads as reliable as possible, everyone nods, but how do we set those limits? How do you know you're done, is one way to think about it. And if there's enough specificity, then we could have an intelligent debate about that, which we can't now. Another thing that's going on there with the RRW, though, which is that there is going to be some horse trading on getting people who are wary about even the START treaty, and certainly about the Comprehensive Test Ban treaty, and frankly there's going to have to be some vote buying. Okay? You need to have the directors of the labs march up to the Hill and say, yes, I support this treaty, or it's dead. And you need to get certain key senators who might be genuinely dubious or might be exploiting it for, because they have leverage, why not use it? And I think that you've seen in the current budget, although the detail is not quite clear where this is going to be spent, money to the labs has gone up by, I think it was $600 million, but don't use that number, look it up. And this is a preliminary. You can see this is, it has a frightful feeling of deja vu from the 1999 debate, where there were certain, we pumped a lot of money into the labs, then ostensibly for the stockpile stewardship program. It was called in the Scientific Stockpile Stewardship Program, and that was the beginning, for example, of the National Ignition Facility, this multi-billion-dollar laser at Livermore. And partly that was just a political horse trade, I think. And partly it was there are legitimate concerns at the time about, can we maintain our nuclear weapons without testing? I thought that those were answered then. They certainly have been answered now in the intermediate decade. But the RRW, I think, is going to be more closely tied to the debate about START and CTBT ratification. Although what I'm hoping is that the NPR will have enough specificity in it about missions that we can then have an intelligent debate about what the requirements are, which now it's almost impossible. A lot of the things that nuclear weapons just have to be, okay, are legacies of the Cold War, okay, and it's almost a defining characteristic of them. And so these ideas about, I was once at a meeting where it was unclassified, but there were people there who were active in design and maintenance of nuclear weapons. And at one point, a debate kind of broke out. There were these two camps, and they were getting a little bit hostile. One group was saying that our current arsenal is 9% reliable, and another group was saying, no, it's only 98% reliable. And that was the argument that was taking place. And how do you choose between those two? And right now, there's no way to know, unless you can say, I want, the reliability argument goes back to this requirement to have disarming first strike against Soviet and then later Russian nuclear forces. And their reliability is extremely important. Okay? If that mission goes away, then what are our reliability requirements? And I'd like to have that debate. And